Well, I have a microphone, and you don't.
So you will listen to every damn word I have to say!
Hey, thanks to our buddy Adam Sandler for giving us that really cool intro. How many of you remember that little piece of audio there? It goes back a while. It goes back to the 90s, I believe. So those old folks there out there, you appreciate that. Welcome back to Student of the Gun Radio. I am your host, Paul Markle. Thanks for joining us this week for this episode. And man, it's been a long week. We've got just a ton of material to talk about this week. Obviously, it's been frozen pretty much everywhere in the United States, including the Deep South. Yes, we were iced in for a couple of days down here, but we survived because we are always prepared. Now, Jared, tell me how you were prepared for the recent ice storm.
Well, I did what everybody does, and I waited till the last minute to go to the store and buy all the bread and milk.
Really? Did you really do that?
No, that's not what I did. I made sure that I had food and drink, and I hunkered down at home in the warmth, and I actually worked on the website.
Well, good. See, it paid off. Those days off paid off. Yeah, we just as a quick aside, we find it kind of ridiculous in the year 2014 after we've had the Hurricane Katrina and Hurricane Sandy and Hurricane this and that and Winter Storm this and that and tornado this and that, all these events where you would think that people would know, there may be a time where I can't leave my house and go directly to the grocery store. Maybe I might want to have more than 2 hours worth of food or 1 day's worth of food in my house. I don't know. Maybe. And we just find it, I don't know, we got that slow learner syndrome. Now, as a student of the gun, we're assuming that you are not a slow learner, that you are prepared, that you are forward thinking because you're here, obviously, and you're listening. And if this is the first time catching Student of the Gun, welcome. We're glad that you're here. But please understand that it's going to take you more than one time to pick up on my sarcastic sense of humor, which happens to drop in here every once in a while.
If you can't go, sorry, this is back on the storm subject. If you can't go 24 hours or 48 hours without leaving the house, then you need to fix yourself.
Yeah, you need to fix yourself. Don't be part of the problem, be part of the solution. Now, speaking of part of the solution, we have lots of friends who support us as Student of the Gun Radio, and they are part of the solution. They would include Crossbreed Holsters of Republic, Missouri, Keltec Weapons of Cocoa, Florida, and, of course, Colt Manufacturing. Colt Manufacturing is making AR-15 black rifles and 1911s, and now they're making precision bolt-action rifles. And where did we find out that Colt's opening a new facility, Jared? Was it in Florida? I think they're opening a new assembly plant in Florida. We'll keep you updated on that. Now, this week, we want to talk about, obviously, well, no, maybe not obviously, but we want to talk about the Maryland Mall shooting here. It happened actually right as we were recording last week's show. It was breaking news. And we didn't have all the facts, obviously, because you don't always get the facts immediately. You get a bunch of conjecture from the media. We didn't get all the facts, but we do want to address some of the lessons learned so that you don't have to fall into the slow learner camp. Now, Jared, Jared put up the new links. He was working on the website this week. And if you haven't been to studentofthegun.com here lately or never, you might want to pop over there and check out some of the new material that Jared has put up. He's got the new, he's got the links for the Armed and Smart book. That's Armed and Smart, A Beginner's Guide to Concealed Carry, and you can go to studentofthegun.com. Off to the right-hand side, there's a picture of the book. You just click on it, and you can order it directly. Also, Armed and Smarter, a Advanced Concealed Carry Weapons and Tactics. You can order that one directly from the Student of the Gun website as well. Now, Jared, to lead us off, we've got an excess good guy of the week question, and we thought this would be a good question to go ahead and get us started on our topic, on our active shooter, on our you're out doing your thing and some jackhole comes up and decides he's going to make some kind of twisted statement by murdering people. And what should you do? Jared, tell us who our good guy of the week is and what exactly was their question.
Our good guy of the week is Jim May, and he says, in an active shooter situation like recently at the Maryland Mall, if I can draw and shoot without the shooter knowing I'm there, example, if I'm coming from behind, should I shout a command to stop or drop the gun, or should I shoot and stop the threat without alerting him or her to my presence?
Okay, it's a good question, and I think that comes up because people get a lot of their training or a lot of their information from movies.
By the way, if you're the student of the week, if you're the good guy of the week, send me an email. That's Jared, Jarrad, at studentofthegun.com, and give me your address, your phone number, and your shirt size.
That's right. So Jim's going to do that. Once he listens to the show this week, he's going to hear his name, and he's going to jump up and down and squeal like a little schoolgirl because he's excited because he's going to get that excess good guy package. And then he's going to send Jared an email with his name, phone number, and shipping address. So back to Jim's question, what should you do? People are like, well, freeze or drop it or hands in the air and all that jazz. Well, one thing that you need to know, if you are a concealed carry permit holder or you are an armed citizen, you are a good guy with a gun. Unless you are wearing a badge and a polyester uniform and you work for the state, you do not have a duty to arrest, okay? People are like, well, citizens arrest, citizens arrest. No. You do not have the duty to execute an arrest. You do not have to attempt to detain or arrest a person who is committing a felony. A lot of people, they get this weird notion in their mind when they get a concealed carry permit that now they're some type of pseudo police officer or pseudo security guard and that they have to give the bad guy the opportunity to surrender first before they use their gun. And that's a lot of Hollywood and TV nonsense. It's really not all that difficult to understand, but you need to cut through all of the bull crap, cut through all the gun shop rumors and, street corner rumors that you get from your buddies and your friends and the guys at work and the dude who lives down the street. And understand this, you're either in a life or death deadly force situation or you're not. You're like, well, that's easy for you to say, Paul. No, seriously. Is that, and you'll know if you're an intelligent human being, if you're intelligent enough to obtain a driver's license, get your concealed carry permit, and so forth, you're intelligent enough to understand when your life or the life of other people is legitimately in jeopardy, such as what happened in Maryland. And when it comes down to, what do I have to say or how long do I have to wait? You have to wait long enough to process the information in your mind that person right there or those people right there are presenting an immediate deadly threat to either yourself or other innocent persons, an unlawful deadly threat to myself or someone else. Now, if that is the case, by law in the United States of America, not everywhere in the world, but in the United States of America, you have the lawful authority or the right to use deadly force to make them stop, to force them to stop doing that. Now, what is that force? Generally, we're talking about the use of a firearm. It could be a crowbar or a baseball bat or a pocket knife or a machete or whatever, but generally we're talking about having a handgun because that is the great equalizer. Are you required to give verbal commands or warnings? No. Are you required to only shoot that person from the front? No. As far as the law is concerned, it makes no difference what angle your bullets entered their body. What makes the difference is, were they engaged in an activity that could have unlawfully murdered, killed, maimed, caused deadly force to other innocents? That is the big question. They say, yeah, but Paul, you in your classes, you yell, stop. You scream. You give a verbal command. So, but you're telling me I don't have to do that. Here's the reason we teach to yell stop. And there's basically, I believe it's three. Well, I'll tick them off right now. Number one, in a deadly force situation, in an adrenaline dump situation, in a I may be killed or someone else may be killed, you're going to be going through a serious adrenaline dump, a high amount of both physiological and mental stress. And when human beings get involved in situations of high mental stress and high physiological stress, the tendency is legitimately to hold their breath or to breathe very shallow. And both of those are bad juju, because why? Well, the human body needs oxygen. And when you've got all that, your heart rate is increased, your heart rate may be even doubled. Your blood's pumping through your veins. You can feel it in your head. You can feel like your ears are going to pop off. You need oxygen and lots of it. And the only way to get it is to breathe. Now, if you're excited or stressed out and you're holding your breath or you're breathing very shallowly, you can't do it. Well, what can you not do while you're yelling stop really, really loud? You can't hold your breath. Try and hold your breath and yell stop very loudly. Well, obviously you can't do it, because what does a human body need to make noise? To make sound. Oxygen, right? You have to be breathing. So that is one of the main factors. It's not so much, it's not helping the bad guy. He's engaged in unlawful felonious activity. I'm not really concerned about his health and well-being. I'm concerned about my health and well-being and that of my family. I yell stop to force myself to breathe. Now, yelling stop may cause that person to pause in the felonious activity that they're doing. They may whoa, who's this person yelling stop at me? And so they pause, or they take a break in the action of what they happen to be doing. And also, and they may stop. There have been situations where people have showed, police officers especially all the time, they draw their guns and they yell stop, and the person's like, whoa, I wasn't expecting this. I don't want to play anymore. They drop their gun, they drop the knife, they drop the bat, whatever, and they're done. Hey, go team, you win. Didn't have to fire a shot. Does that always happen? No, it doesn't always happen. And you're also letting people around you know that you are a legitimate good guy. You're trying to stop a bad situation. Now, let's look at the mall shooting. Let's look at an active shooter situation from a practical standpoint. As soon as it goes down and you realize that it's legitimately going down, there's going to be noise of gunfire, and there'll be screams, yelling. There'll be lots and lots of chaos. The chances of the person actually hearing you yell stop, they may or may not. What do you think? You're in a store and someone pulls out a gun, and the citizens, the customers, see it, and they start screaming, running, knocking over stuff, falling into each other. What do you think the chances of the bad guy hearing you yell stop are anyway? Probably pretty slim, especially if he's engaged in shooting. If he's already fired one or two shots, his ears are already ringing. So he's already got an auditory exclusion thing going on right there. Do you have to yell stop? Do you have to give commands, drop the gun, all that jazz to stop a felonious assault? Someone who's in the middle of, a felonious active shooter situation? The answer is no. You're not required by law to give commands. You are only required by law to follow the deadly force requirements, which is what? Ability, opportunity, and intent. And if that person has the ability, the opportunity, and the intent to cause unlawful deadly harm to another person, you can legitimately launch bullets into them. Whether they enter their side, their back, their front, their top, their bottom, is really immaterial when it comes to the facts of the case. Now, that's not to say that people might say, well, he shot him in the back. Well, was I supposed to wait for him to turn around and point his gun at me before I shot him? I was supposed to let him continue shooting the children on the ground until he turned around. That's what you wanted me to do, prosecutor guy? You wanted me to just let him keep shooting the children on the ground in the classroom until he turned around so I could shoot him in the front? Really? No, obviously not. So Jim, that was a good question. And that does lead us into our lessons learned. Now, Jared, before we go into the lessons learned, I want you to tell them what they need to do if they're listening on their iPhone or their Android phone or their iTablet or iPad. Tell them what they need to do and where they need to go.
Well, if you are listening on a mobile device right now, go to your app store and search Student of the Gun, and you can download our mobile app, which you can listen to this podcast. You can listen to this voice directly from the app, as well as many other things. Everything Student of the Gun. I don't think anything's. I think everything Student of the Gun.
Videos, articles, social media, gear store.
But
all that stuff. You can do pretty much everything that we have up and available online. You can access it from the new Student of the Gun mobile app.
Yeah, I was thinking that there is nothing Student of the Gun that's not on the app.
And tell them about our sponsor, our app sponsor.
Century International Arms was nice enough to partner with us, and they've shown us a lot of love over the last
several years, many years.
A lot of years.
They're friends of ours, and we've been working with Century I've been personally working with them for 10, 12, 14, 15 years, something like that. So, Century International Arms, Century Arms is our official app sponsor, and you can link directly to their website from the Student of the Gun mobile app. So go to your Google Play Store or go to your iTunes App Store and check it out. And the cost is
nothing.
It's free.
It's absolutely free.
You're welcome.
And a lot of you guys probably watched the big game, but we didn't. And if you want to know why, go to the app, go to the blog page, and there's an entire article of why that did not happen.
3 reasons why I didn't watch the big game, or I won't be watching the big game. So, all right, let's get back into our Maryland mall shooting. Now, educated students of the gun, those of you that have been around for a little while, that you've been paying attention to this show, we like to point out media hypocrisy when we see it. And if you are a smart guy or gal and you don't just have your head buried up your rectum, you will recognize, and you're probably recognizing this media malpractice when you see it. We've got a great example of media malpractice. Now, according to my show notes, I believe it was Monday morning, 1/27/14. That was Monday, right, Jared? I believe it was. You can check your calendars. So it was the day after the news hit about this mall shooting. And that's when they started to get information. You know, the police went and they identified the killer, and they went and they found out where he lived, and then all that stuff, all the post-shooting stuff that they go through every single time there's a shooting. You know, who is this person? Where do they come from? And what do they always do? They search social media. They search the internet immediately. Let's face it, that's where the news, that's where today in the year 2014, if you get caught up in anything, whether it's a lover's triangle or a murder or whatever, they go to social media and they find your Facebook page or they find your Twitter or they find your what the heck ever, and they pull pictures off of that, and that's what they dump into their stories. That's just the way it works. I mean, and it's really convenient for them. That way they don't have to actually go get actual printed photographs. Remember those? We used to have these things. They were glossy and they had color pictures, and you could hold it in your hand. Back in the olden days, you know, when we rode dinosaurs, we actually had printed pictures. But, and so obviously we were preparing the show notes and we wanted to talk about this. So we get online, I get online, I start poking around, and I immediately find a story with a picture of the murderer. There he is. There's him. There's his name. And I'm not going to say his name because we don't give notoriety to turds on my show. But I go to see it there, and there's several stories listed. And the CNN online story is there, and it's one of the top stories. I click on it to see if I can get a little bit more information than I got from the other one. And CNN online, and this is the morning of 1/27/14, their lead story was about Maryland mall shooter, right? Number one story. And what do you suppose they have a picture of? Well, you'd think that since it's the number one story, and all the other news outlets, the Fox News, the APs, the New York Times, and so forth, they have a picture of the shooter at the top of the story. CNN doesn't. Their picture, their top fold photograph is of a police officer standing outside of the mall in his SWAT gear with a evil black rifle in his hand. And you might be saying to yourself, well, big deal, Paul. You know, well, is the story about a police officer in SWAT gear standing outside the mall in the parking lot with a rifle? Or is the story about a murderer who went into a mall and killed 2 innocent people before taking his own miserable life. Well, yeah, that's what the story's about. Okay, so why would you not, if it is available, why would you not put a photograph of the shooter as your lead photo? You can probably be thinking that. You're like, well, you know, the moment, if you're old enough to remember the Timothy McVeigh deal, the moment they got a picture of that guy, it was everywhere, right? Everyone in America knew what that guy looked like immediately, as soon as they could get a hold of it. So why would they not do that? Ask yourself this, smart listeners. Is it because the shooter in Maryland was a person of color? Was he 19, Jared? I think he was 19. Doesn't really matter. He was 18 or 19. I think he's 19. So a 19-year-old person of color is the murderer. And CNN chooses not to lead the photo at the top of their story. Now, I'm sure by this point in time, by the time you hear this, that's changed, and they have. But why would now? And you say, well, it must just be a coincidence, or it's an accident, or it's an oversight. Do you really believe that? Do you really believe that CNN puts anything on their news line, that they don't have editors, they don't have story editors, senior editors, supporting editors that look at and review every single word, every single photograph that gets put up? You think there's just one rogue guy out there and he puts up whatever he feels like putting up this morning? Really? Do you believe that? So we wanted to point out that that deliberate media malpractice that was put on by, well, you guys, CNN is what? Communist News Network, Clinton News Network. It's trash. It's filth. It's propaganda. And Joseph Goebbels would be proud. And if you don't know who Joseph Goebbels is, you need to do a little bit of research and educate yourself. Now, after last week when we announced the initial story and we just talked about it very a little bit, we started getting emails from people who listen to the show and are residents of the People's Republic of Maryland. And we talked about the situation. Now, we got at least, on the first day, we got at least 3 emails from residents of Maryland who said, look, yeah, technically on the books that Maryland is a may issue concealed carry state. They said there is a concealed carry law on the books. But from a practical standpoint, what we got from basically everybody who wrote us was that it's they used words like nearly impossible, or in order to obtain a concealed carry permit in Maryland, you must show cause for your request. You must demonstrate cause to the state why you want that, and they can still deny it to you. And that is the big difference between people are like, well, what's the big deal? We have a concealed carry law in my state. It's there. It's on the books. Really? And what does it say? Because if the law leaves it up to the discretion of the bureaucrat, it might as well not exist. That's the difference between a may issue state and a shall issue state. May and shall are pretty big words when it comes to the law. In a shall issue state, it is written into the law that unless the state can come up with an affirmative reason why you should not be allowed to have it, then they shall issue it to you. And then you have your communist states, your slave states like Maryland, where they can just look at you and say, no. But I'm a citizen in good standing. No, go away. So what do we know about Maryland? We know that Maryland does indeed have some of the, they're up there on the, I'm sure that they're in the Brady campaign's, top 10 of best gun control laws in the nation. And we talked about those guys before. But the mall in question, now this came up really quickly. People researched it very quickly, that the particular shopping mall in question had a weapons-free, no guns or weapons policy. So no guns, no weapons are allowed on the property. So that's a relief. Because what do we know? We know that psychotic felons who are bent on murder, they will realize that it is a no-gun zone. It's a gun-free zone, and they won't commit murders there. That's what we know, right? Or do we know that that's where they go on purpose? Hey, slow learners in the audience. Hey, reasonable people. Hey, all you folks out there that still think, well, I can understand posting those signs because they're just concerned with the safety of the people inside, and it's just reasonable. Really? Really? When someone tells you that you must be disarmed for safety, whose safety are they concerned with? It's certainly not your safety. Whose safety are they concerned with? When someone tells you that you must be disarmed in the interest of safety, whose safety are we really worried about here? Obviously, it's not yours. It's not the safety of the patrons inside. So what do we know about that? We know when you willfully disarm yourself, you become a great potential victim. When you say, well, but Paul, I want to shop there, but they have the signs. So I have to disarm myself to go in there. Are you an adult? Do you realize the difference between right and wrong? Do you realize when you go to, I got a question for you. When you go to a mall or a shopping center or a store or whatever that has one of these ridiculous, stupid, pointless signs on the door that says no guns allowed. When you go to one of those places, do they issue you your own personal armed security officer to escort you through the business while you're there? They don't? They don't have individually armed bodyguards that they assign to you to keep you safe while you're moving around? Well, that's strange. Okay. Do they have metal detectors and random frisks and searches of you? I got a question for you. Would you frequent a mall that before you walked into the mall, you had to go through a metal detector, empty your purse and pockets out on a tray, go through an x-ray scan, and then submit yourself to random frisks and pat-downs? Would you go to that mall? You wouldn't. Well, I would hope you wouldn't. If you would, you're a ridiculously naive sheep, and you need to go listen to an NPR show and stop listening to me. But, folks, it's stupid, it's ridiculous, it's pointless. Stop falling for it and stop being reasonable and stop coming up with all these reasonable, lame, platitudes like, well, it's their right. Okay, it is their right. It's your right to stay alive. It's your right to defend your family. It's your right to stop some urban turd from using you as target practice. Is that not your right? Does some turd have the right to shoot you in the mall? They have that right, but you don't have the right to protect yourself? Well, it's not like it's going to happen. You're right. It probably won't happen. Don't buy a fire extinguisher. Don't wear your seatbelt. Don't have insurance because it'll probably never happen to you. And what did we see? Again, we have citizens who have willfully disarmed themselves, and then they become victims. And their whole defensive strategy is to hide on the ground, put their hands over their head, and hope they don't get murdered. If that's your defensive strategy, I would say that you might want to rethink it. Now, we got another story out of Maryland while we're talking about Maryland, and we want to go ahead and point this out. You guys probably have seen this, and it's a continuing story. Now, we talked last week about the gentleman from Florida. We did, Jared. We talked about that. Was it hour 1 or hour 2? I think it was in the Gestapo, Good Cop, Gestapo Cop news. We talked about the concealed carry permit holder from Florida who was pulled over in Maryland, ostensibly for speeding. And immediately, the officer from the MDTA, the Maryland Transportation Authority Police, sounds like TSA light to me, or TSA with guns. But immediately, they wanted to know where his gun was. What? You get pulled over for speeding, and the officer walks up and goes, I know you're a gun owner. Where's your gun? Well, first of all, it's not illegal to be a gun owner. It is not against the law and is not probable cause for a search. You can't just search me because I own a gun. That doesn't make me a de facto criminal. It doesn't make you a de facto criminal, unless, of course, you live in Maryland. Well, we got a follow-up story, and the source from this is theconservativetreehouse.com. We actually had 2 different emails, or might have been 3, folks out there who sent us the links to this story. And it turns out that the guy in question, the vehicle in question, had driven through a big tunnel up there in Maryland. I think it was the Fort Henry. I'm looking for the specific name. Yeah, the Fort McHenry Tunnel. Had driven through the Fort McHenry Tunnel, and apparently the Fort McHenry Tunnel is high on the Department of Homeland Security's watch list. And what they have, according to the story, is Maryland has a system set up of cameras to monitor every vehicle that goes in and out of the tunnel, and that immediately scans the license plates of every vehicle entering the tunnel, and that through their supercomputer, what they're able to do is to do basically photo ID, to use a photo ID program to find out instantly, or as close to instantly as you can with a supercomputer, who owns it, what's their name, and whether or not they have a concealed carry permit registered to their license. Because what we know is there are several states out there where when you get a CCW, it's linked to your driver's license information. So I know not all, but there are several that do.
Well, if you're not breaking the law, then why do you care?
Oh yeah, that's right. That's right. You shouldn't care about an invasion of your privacy if you don't have something to hide. Didn't they? Here's the. Yeah, thanks for bringing that up, Jared. Every oppressive regime in the history of the world has used that as an excuse. Nazi Germany did it. The Soviet Union, the old Soviet Union, they did it. There's still communist countries in the world, believe it or not, folks, that treat their people like slaves. This whole, if you're not hiding something, you shouldn't be worried. Anybody that tells you that, you need to run like hell away from those people, because they. Oh, here we go. It's the name of this, the innocuous name, this intelligence gathering thing is the Maryland Coordination and Analysis Center. This is where they gather the data for thousands upon thousands of vehicles. And so the upshot of this story essentially is this, is we have potentially a state agency, an arm of the state that is using high tech to determine who possibly is a firearms owner, and then to specifically and individually target those people as firearms owners. If that doesn't bother you, I would submit, if that doesn't bother you, I don't know why you're here listening to me, but it very well should bother you, folks. It is not illegal to own a gun. It does not make you a potential criminal. You do not have to explain your reasons for owning a firearm. If you are an American citizen in good standing, you don't have to explain it. You don't have to explain to the Nazis in Maryland where your gun happens to be at that moment in time.
The answer is because America.
Yeah, that's a good rated G answer. We have a rated R answer, but because we know that some young folks listen to this show, we won't give you the rated R answer to that question. All right, so I guess the upshot is stay out of Maryland. And if you're in Maryland, I guess it kind of sucks to be you. So don't know what to tell you guys up there in occupied Maryland, but there are probably a lot better places in the world to live than there. And you still are a citizen. Hopefully you're a citizen. And folks, are we going to give them the prison thing, Jared?
Sure, let's give them the prison thing.
All right. If you want to send us, Student of the Gun, Facebook messages, or you want to send us emails or notes or whatever and say, well, that's easy for you to say, Paul, but I can't move away from Maryland. I can't move out of New Jersey.
You know what I have to say to that?
What do you have to say to that?
You're going to eat that cornbread.
All right, you got me. Cornbread? What?
Oh, I'm about to butter your bread, boy.
Oh, in prison?
Yep.
Okay, yeah. Jared's
all
Jared's
the
going
young hipsters
and dropping obscure references on us there. Oh, the young hipsters get that?
Hopefully. People my age.
Oh, all right, all you young hipsters get that one. But my question to you is, if you're going to send us a message that says, you don't understand, I can't, what I'm going to assume is that you're writing me from some penal institution in California or in New Jersey, or in New York or wherever you happen to be, because there's a big difference between I can't, as in I am not able, or I don't want to, or I'm unwilling. I can't and I am not willing are not the same things. Everyone in America, everyone within the sound of my voice has choices to make. You wake up every day and you make choices. You live and sometimes you die based upon those choices. But don't tell me I can't unless you're currently incarcerated and you are held prisoner. Don't tell me that you can't. Okay?
What I tell people is the people that complain to me about their life, I tell them that their life is a direct reflection of the consequences, or a direct consequence of the choices they've made. Thank you there, Buddha. And let's talk about gun stuff. You want to talk about gun stuff, Jared? Yeah, let's talk about some. All right, let's talk about some cool gun stuff. You folks, if you follow studentofthegun.com, if you follow our Facebook or our social media, you'll know that here in the last couple of months, we've been working with a product called the TACCON. That's Tango Alpha Charlie, Charlie Oscar Nora, TACCON triggers. And what they've done is they've come up with a drop-in trigger system for an AR-15 rifle that gives you not one, not two, but 3 different positions. And you're like, what? How can that be legal? Well, it is. It is legal, and you can own one. And we've actually, we went over last month. We spent some time with our buddies at Red Jacket Firearms, with our buddy Zach. We shot in the test tunnel. We had a lower receiver that had a TACCON trigger on it, and we had a good time over there. Well, we just got a TACCON trigger in the FedEx the other day, and what we're going to do is we're going to put it into our Colt LE901 rifle. We've got an LE901, and for those of you that are hip, you know that the LE901 rifle from Colt is a .308 Winchester rifle that can also be converted almost instantly to fire 5.56. It is a really cool rifle. We've got one in our hot little hands, and what we're going to be doing is we're going to install the new TACCON trigger in that. We're going to shoot it .308 and 5.56. And, of course, we will be recording that for the TV show. Not immediately, but it will be coming up pretty soon, so you want to keep an eye out for that. Now, TACCON is really simple. You just go to, what is the website, Jared? Give us the website for TACCON. It's not is it TACCON? Go ahead and give it to me. You're messing on the computer over there. It's not TACCON.com. Hold on a second.
No, it's something else. And a lot of you guys, if you went to... you probably are seeing little YouTube videos and stuff pop up all over the internet because they had a booth out at Range Day at SHOT Show, and they let people try them out.
Yeah, but obviously that's not a TACCON trigger.
No, because you don't have one. Yeah, they're not available yet.
They're taking pre-orders right now. Well, how do you think they get the word out to the people, the consumer? But anyway, the website is tacfirecon.com. That's TACFIRECON.com.
So like Tactical Fire Control, only shortened down. So tacfire.com is where you go to check those out. So take a second, check them out. You may be interested in what you see, and if you don't want to buy one, don't buy one. Save us the brain cells of having to read your post on Facebook that says, well, that's stupid and I would never buy one. Well, you know what? If you think it's stupid and you never buy one, don't. But I can tell you this. They broke ground. These guys at TACCON, they broke ground. They did something that no one else, no other trigger maker in the United States was doing. They used a third position on a black rifle. And what I would anticipate in the very, very near future is other drop-in trigger companies, I'm not going to name them, but I would assume that a lot of other drop-in trigger companies are researching and doing the exact same thing and thinking, how can we offer the consumer something similar? So in the next few months, the next year, keep a close eye out for that. And you may be able to go to legally, lawfully, as a citizen, without special permission from the commissar, have a 3-position trigger on your black rifle. And we've got a cool Go Team moment for you guys. We want to go ahead and take the time. You know that we like when we get a Go Team moment, we like to share it with you guys. So that's what we're going to do here next. And the source, our source is theblaze.com. And this comes to us from theblaze.com, and it says the lead story is, or the title is kind of a long title, but it says, he burst into a restaurant with a gun and tried to rob the place. Then things went almost as wrong as they could for him. Well, where did Junior burst into? Well, an armed man entered a Greenville, South Carolina restaurant around 10 p.m. This is last Thursday night, as we're recording that, in hopes of becoming a wealthier man. Strange how things didn't go according to his plan. 22-year-old Calvin J.B., we're not going to say his whole name, but went into the Wings on the Run restaurant or he left the Wings on the Run restaurant with 2 fresh gunshot wounds. Yeah, the clerk, the guy behind the counter, was an armed citizen. So Junior walks in here and decides that he has the right to commit an armed robbery, and the person behind the counter decided that he did not have the right to commit an armed robbery and gave him 2 fresh gunshot wounds. Now, Junior here, he survived his wounds, and now he is in jail, and hopefully he will be going to prison very soon. And, folks, we like to call that a life lesson. So maybe, just maybe, little what's his name, Calvin B here. Hopefully Calvin B got himself a life lesson and has decided that at age 22, a life of crime is not for him. You know, maybe he's going to, get a little bit of religion in his life and not do that anymore. Or maybe he can continue to do that, and eventually he'll get ventilated but good, and he'll become worm food. But either way, the choice is Calvin's to make. Folks, scumbags out there in the world, you do not have the right to rob people. And I don't care what your family thinks, if they think you're a good little boy. It's like, what do we have? The guy decided to rob the Family Dollar General store and got armed robbery and get shot for his troubles, and his family comes out and said he didn't need to be shot just for armed robbery. Yeah, actually, that's kind of why you do need to be shot. So it's called a life lesson, and we hope that Calvin learned it. Maybe he didn't. Hey, but Calvin, we hope if you're sitting out there in the in the jail in South Carolina that you have learned your lesson and you've decided that robbing people, becoming an armed robber at age 22, probably wasn't the best decision you made in life. There are other things for you to do. Now, don't forget, Student of the Gun Television is on. We have Student of the Gun TV. It's on Dish Network, channel 266, 9 o'clock Eastern Time every Monday. That's Monday night at 9 Eastern. If you're a Dish subscriber, go to 266, and you can check out the TV show. If you don't have Dish, that's cool. If you're on the East Coast, if you're in Maryland, how ironic is that, Jared? If you're in Maryland or Virginia or West Virginia, you can watch. You can pick up the TV show on Shentel on your what's called a live outdoors channel on Shentel HD cable. You can watch us there. So even if you're a disarmed slave in Maryland, you can still watch our show and live vicariously. Now, if you don't have cable, you don't have satellite, you don't have none of that jazz, I bet you have an internet connection. And if you've got an internet connection, all you have to do is go to studentofthegun.com. And right there, that busy little beaver, Jared, he's constantly updating the website. He puts the videos up there on the main page. Just click it, watch it. The archives, the show archives are also listed there. If you want to watch previous shows, if you missed an episode, you can watch that and go back there and watch the archive shows. And if you are if you're a young hipster, if you're a cool guy, if you have teenagers in your home, they can probably show you how to use the YouTube app or how to use your, your Roku box or your Intel box or whatever, so that you can watch the shows in high def on your big screen TV just via the internet. So check that out if you want to. If you don't, that's cool too, but we like you anyway. Don't forget about our mobile app. We have the new Student of the Gun mobile application, and if you have an Android phone, if you have an iPhone, if you have an iPad, any of those cool devices, you go ahead and download it for free. You can listen to the radio directly from our app. You can watch videos. You can read the latest articles, all that good stuff. Now, if you're like my friend Zach and you still have one of those old flip-type phones from 1997, it's not going to work for you. And I'm sorry, Zach, you're just going to have to listen to us, on your laptop or something. But as long as you have a modern phone, you can download the app. Now, folks, coming up in the next segment, we're going to talk about security and the illusion of security, and what is the difference between the two? And is there a difference between the two? So we're going to take a short break, but remember, you're a beginner once, but you should be a student for life.